So we have time for just one or two more, and I'm going to ask one that could fill an evening or two or several, and that is, Mr. Secretary, you worked with 6 or 7 presidents, some number, most all of them, since Kennedy. Can you, either naming names or not naming names, do you have any observations to make about your perspective on what makes an effective president?
You know, each one of them was so different in their circumstance, in their skill sets, in their backgrounds, and even more important, each one of them served at a notably different time in our country's history. I mean, if you think of what President Bush faced with 9/11, think of Gerald Ford following a resigned president for the first time in our history, walking into a White House that was deemed illegitimate. It's an enormously difficult job. I think, just to pick one, only one of these people were friends of mine. All the rest were presidents, and I was working for them. But Gerald Ford and I had served in Congress together. I had helped manage his campaign for minority leader, and he was a friend. He was somebody that I was very, very close to, and so he came into office, and because he was such a wonderful man, basic human decency, it just oozed from every pore in his body. This was a fine, fine, honorable, decent man. And it came out. People got it. They looked at him and nodded and said, he's okay. And simply by being Gerald Ford, he helped to refill the reservoir of trust in this country, which had been drained. I mean, Richard Nixon had enormous pluses. The people he brought into government continued to contribute for the next 30, 40 years after he left. His opening to China, activity in the environmental area. Ronald Reagan, and you know, I don't know, we've got Republicans here, Democrats here. I've got a lot of friends that are Democrats as well as Republicans. I don't know how it happens, but my adult lifetime, almost every Republican president was considered dumb. Eisenhower, oh my goodness, his syntax was bad, he played too much golf, he wasn't very swift. Gerald Ford, you know, my goodness, what did President Johnson say? He played too much football without a helmet. Here was the best athlete that's probably ever served in that office. And he knew more about the federal budget. He graduated Yale Law School. I don't have any book for Yale. We haven't gone to Princeton, but he was a very intelligent, fine man. But you know, and then in comes Ronald Reagan, and Clark Clifford says, oh, he's an amiable dunce. Not very swift. I don't know what it is about our society that the opinion leaders seem to think every Republican president's a dumbbell. They aren't. These are fine people, just as the Democratic presidents are fine people. You don't get into that office by accident. I mean, you have to go out there and run around that track and have people pick on you and fuss at you, ask you tough questions, see how you answer those questions, and by golly, somebody comes out of that mix as president. And God, thank goodness they do. And it represents the collective best judgment of our society. So I think we've been darn fortunate over the years to have a string of presidents who cared about the country and who got up every morning and tried to do their best and faced enormously different circumstances. I mean, I love Ronald Reagan. I mean, how can you beat a guy who says, I don't think it's complicated? In the Cold War, you've got the communists and you've got us.
Yeah.
What do you want to happen? He said, we win, they lose.
Yeah, exactly.
Now that isn't very sophisticated, people said, but by golly, he was right. We won, they lost.
We did.
And the world's a better place for it.
So, Mr. Secretary, maybe in closing, so it was in 1954 that Adlai Stevenson and others inspired you to service. If you were giving a graduating speech to Princeton or another class this year, what would you tell them?
You know, I hope you folks will go to the website and get Adlai Stevenson's speech. And I hope you'll give it to young people, because our country needs people who are willing to step up and engage in public service and take the risks, the disadvantages of public service, and they're real, and understand how important it is, as Adlai Stevenson said, for all of us to help guide and direct the course of this great country. I mean, all across the globe, people want to come here. They go to sleep in the grass outside of our embassies so they can be first in line to get a visa to come here. Why? Because this is an amazing country of opportunity, and it is very special, and it needs to stay that way. I mean, the debt we're facing in this country ought to scare people and concern us deeply. And we need people who are going to get up and engage in public service, who understand that and who care about the country and want to see a country that offers opportunity to the American people, and not just to our generation. I mean, I think of all the opportunities I have, it's just amazing. But the next generation needs those opportunities. And what Adlai Stevenson said was, look, each of you have got to help guide and direct the course of this country, and that the power for good or evil, I'm not quoting him perfectly, but the power for good or evil of the American system is virtually beyond measurement. And if America stumbles, the world could fall. You have that speech.
I do.
Why don't you leave a copy with the man in charge of the Standard Club, and tell people here that they can get a Xerox copy from them if you're not skillful enough to go on Rumsfeld.com website. I really appreciate you all. I appreciate your being here.
Thank you for your service. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.